I don't like to even think of AI as like a productivity tool. I think of it as a wealth building tool, an equalization tool. It's giving you the same capacity that the largest companies in the world had, and it's giving you.
I've got a favor to ask before this episode begins. This is a simple, free, easy thing you can do. I would be hugely grateful if you could take 5 seconds and hit the like, follow, or subscribe button on the app wherever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you so much. Welcome to Capacity Conversations. My guest today is Makeda Boehm, the founder of Seed and Society, an AI education, media, and strategy company. Makeda, I'm so glad you're here. Makeda is a keynote speaker, a social and data scientist with an MBA, and the creator of the Connector Method and Context Training, something we're going to talk about today, teaching founders how to get AI to actually understand their business and then build the AI employees that run the work for them. Wow, I need to hear this. So Makeda's been building with AI every single day for over 2 years. She runs a podcast with her AI clone in 5 languages across 40 plus countries and does it all on less than 5 hours a week. Wow. She also maintains a demanding role in enterprise sales, having sold nearly 10 million in software over 4 years. Her whole thesis is more money, more time, and more options. Please welcome Makeda Boehm to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Makeda, we're going to get into all of what you do with context training and AI because I think people, this is something that we want to hear. But, you know, Makeda, you and I met, and I think a lot of things that people don't know about you is kind of where you came from, where you started, what were some of your struggles? And I know you shared with me a story of how you landed one of the jobs that I'm assuming it's a job that you have now, but you went through some struggles. Take us back, give us an insight into where Makeda came from.
Yeah, no, I always like to talk about kind of where I started. Like, I'm from Philadelphia originally, and a lot of folks don't realize that Philadelphia is one of the poorest cities in America because it's also the birthplace of America, right? Like, it has great innovation and things going on, but over 30% of the population lives under the poverty line, which means it's a huge place of disparity where you have so much opportunity and some of like the richest of the rich right next to some folks who don't have running water. And I was a teacher for years, so I would have students who came to class who didn't have electricity, who didn't have running water, and I'm talking about America here. So being able to see that disparity very up close was really impactful for me. And I got my GED at 16. I'd went to 7 high schools at that point. I'd traveled up and down the eastern seaboard. We moved a lot, and it was like really unstable. And I remember asking my grandfather, that's who raised me, if I can pass the GED test without studying, can I just leave high school? Because I wanted to go and work. And I passed with flying colors the first time. I left high school with like a 4.06. So I'm not going to be like, oh, it was this big struggle. School has always been easy for me because the way that they measure intelligence is the way that my intelligence comes out. So that was an unfair advantage, right? But like Einstein or whoever said it, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll seem like it's not efficient. Everyone has intelligence. And I learned that a lot while being a teacher and especially a special education teacher. But that was my advantage. So I did City Year, which is like AmeriCorps, which is almost like the Peace Corps in America, as my alternative senior year for high school. And ironically enough, it was working on the high school dropout crisis. So I worked in a middle school in the English classes and math classes, and it was really transformative because my first job, I was the youngest person in the Corps at 17, which is when you can join. My first job was working 50 hours a week for a stipend, which worked out to be like $3 an hour.
Wow.
And it was very demanding, very stressful, but also really rewarding. My big experience from that was learning just kind of like what I didn't want in a role in a lot of ways, as much as what I did want. And then when I went to college on time at 18, while I was in City Year, I was taking my SATs, I was applying still. Um, it almost made college easy in comparison because that was like one of the hardest 9 month periods of my life. I remember that summer came and I just like slept like I never slept before. Um, but that is really that baseline of where what we're talking about with like, then I applied for jobs and I got into the workspace. That wasn't that hard to me because I know hard. Like I went through hard. I went through to middle school in Ghana for a little bit. Like when you have, I feel like a global perspective and you see how much harder it is for a lot of folks in different places, whether you're still in America in some of the worst neighborhoods, right? Or you're out to seas, you understand like I rather compare myself to how good this can get. So I'm working towards a goal of knowing that better exists because representation matters. And for better or for worse, we have social media now where you can see what where people are going, where they're traveling, what their houses look like, if it's real, or whatever is going on. So it was like, hold on. I know how to solve problems. I know how to do things. So there's clearly a path here. I just need to figure that out. So 2020 came and I moved to the middle of nowhere and I was in scientific sales and I was grateful for it because I had gotten that role while I was pregnant with my daughter. But I mean, I was making like $15 an hour. And of course, there was commission too. That's why I love sales. But still, at the end of the year, I probably banked 50,000, which was great. When I was a teacher, I maybe made 30 or 40,000 in a good year. But that just wasn't enough. And it became very clear this wasn't enough. And for again, for better or for worse, COVID came and it changed the online job landscape. Because before the job I had was great to be able to work from home and earn, $50,000 a year. That wasn't very common, unless you were a freelancer or you had a whole portfolio with a whole lot of client work and you built your own business. So when this came and jobs were open, I was applying. I was like, oh, everyone has a remote role. And I applied to a lot of jobs. I remember like I'd hit 700 rejections at one point. And of course, I had some interviews. I like to be clear about like I had some interviews, but they were other $50,000 roles or maybe 60 and hybrid. And it was like, well, that's a lateral move. That's going to put me in the same situation as now, except maybe better benefits. But I'm going to be on call all the time and without the commission upside. So when I finally got the role, after 1,000 job
That's
applications
wild.
for an account executive role, I went into it with the perspective of I knew how fortunate I was. I knew how hard I worked to get here. So I knew that I would go above and beyond to excel in that role. And 5 months later, I'd exceeded quota. I'd sold 1.5 million in software. And 3 years later, I was the number one salesperson in the company, having sold over $7 million in software. And it, to that point, I stepped into this new identity where I'm like, I'm seeing other folks who are doing this and know how to make it work. And at that point, I'd made seven figures in
That's
income.
wild.
And that really changed what I thought was possible and what I thought was important to let other folks know is possible.
Yeah, Makeda, I mean, to go, people hear wow, the seven figures, and that's astounding. But the figure that sticks with me is 700 rejections. that you got. What was going through your mind? I mean, Makeda, I get one rejection and I'm like, oh, well, that's the end of the world. Like, this is just not meant for me. I'm like, I'm going to give up. Right. And I exaggerate, but what caused you to take those rejection letters and just continue to keep going?
Honestly, so first I think we live in this like quick instant world where you can auto apply, or at least if you don't get on a certain HCM site that I won't mention because yeah, they may have been a competitor. You've seen it where you have to make a whole profile just to fill out your job application and it never parses your email. So I sold HCM systems. That was the job I got afterwards. So I was very intimately aware of the job seeker's journey at that point, which I think helped me be successful and empathetic when I'm speaking to HR and all the folks on how we can make this better. The first company I had worked at, NeoGov, which I'll talk, it's public sector HCM systems. I just thought that their technology was absolutely incredible. So that makes it easier to sell. But to your point, rejection is like the name of the game in sales, right? Like you cannot take it personally. And I always hear something my aunt told me when I was it's how I got into Temple, right? Like even though this is a R1 research school, I didn't finish high school. I didn't have most of the criteria they asked for. Even though I transferred from my first college, second semester, freshman year, on paper, I shouldn't have been accepted. I know plenty of people who didn't get accepted to Temple, and I got accepted. Why? Because my aunt always told me, you don't tell yourself no, you let them tell you no. And that was what stilled her. I'm first generation Jamaican American on my dad's side, and she came over here, just like my pop came over here in his 20s with one suitcase. And when you understand that, I feel like it changes your whole world. Like the worst people can usually say to you is no. Where does that leave you? Exactly where you started. And now you at least cut off that path so you're not thinking, what if, or maybe I do this. It's like, okay, there was a no here. Great, there's a million other paths I can take to get to that destination. So
Yeah.
when folks tell me no, I cold call and I sell to state government agencies now. So I'm calling like the CIO of the state of Tennessee or something, right? It's like you're probably going to hear no. Like they're super busy. They have a lot going on. What value are you bringing? Are you bringing something that they need? Did you do research into what they want? And maybe it lands, maybe it doesn't. There's other agencies, there's other states, like there's other paths. So no to me just kind of means go in another direction. It's just redirection. It's not the end.
Yeah, I love that. It's not redirection. I mean, it's not the end. It's a path that's closed, and so now, okay, now it gives me direction on where to go. I
It's
love
information. It's just
it's
another
information.
information point. Yep.
And I love that you don't tell you no. Gosh, your aunt is just amazing.
She's
You don't
amazing. She
tell you no.
changed my life, honestly, because a big thing for me is you, me and you can be sitting in the same room, right? You're burning up. I'm freezing. Who's right? Who's wrong? No one. We're just experiencing that moment from our perspective. And I won't go into it, but that's how I view the world in general, right? Which is how I'm able to communicate and connect with people who may have completely different views than I do of the world, just from how they're sitting in it, how they relate to it, their geography, what they've experienced. It doesn't necessarily make them right or wrong. Sometimes, yes, but not necessarily when it's your experience. So, what I've learned from that is you literally cannot make everybody happy. That's just not possible. So, make yourself happy.
Yeah.
Do the thing that at least makes you happy with it because you're the only one who has to live with that. and then go and orient yourself that way. If you're trying to people please all the time or make everyone happy at the expense of yourself, just know that you will absolutely not make everybody happy. It's not possible. And you'll make yourself miserable in the time of it. So at least readjust that, and hopefully you'll enjoy your life more.
Yeah, choose you. Choose you.
Choose
Choose you,
you.
listener. Choose you, listener. Makeda, how did you get, I know you're writing a book. How did you get into AI? I know you're in sales, so share with the listeners your journey, not necessarily your journey, but where is this book and the AI, like where does all this fit in?
Yeah, so I'm in tech sales. So AI is now I work at one of the top AI companies in the world. Um, but when it was coming out, especially like ChatGPT, I had already started my Master of Science in Data Science. And while I was coding in Python and R, I was like, this is not my zone of genius. Like, my undergrad degrees are in African American studies and sociology. So,
Okay.
yes, I love data, I love statistics, I love understanding that numbers are never neutral. They have people and stories and history behind them. So, I wanted to be able to tell that story in a data way. I didn't want to sit there and code all day. So I actually switched over and got my MBA. And even though I went through half of the data science degree, I was like, if I have to do this every day, like sitting here, taking large data sets, ingesting them, cleansing them to give you a dashboard for other people to talk about it, I'll be miserable. So I got my MBA, and that's when I went into tech sales. And then I went back to my data science degree now because they have very AI specific courses. And at this point, honestly, I'm in like some of the classes, I'm like, I could teach this. Like this is what I do. It's my happy place. But I feel like a lot of times people put it in this box. AI is applicable to every aspect of your life. First, you are already using it. If you use Google Maps or Apple Maps, if you get a recommendation on your Netflix screen, right? Like the algorithm. I used to joke, and this is like a decade ago, before when I used to love Pandora. Remember that app
Oh
where it
yeah.
was your radio app and it always could play the songs that I wanted to hear? And I would joke, woman marries algorithm. Like you'll see that about me. Algorithms are not new. The difference with generative AI is that now you can also play with this technology that has been shaping your life now for over a decade. When you go onto your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed, those are all algorithmic calculations that are saying, I took in all these data points from you, and this is what I think you want to see. And you weren't able to play with that same technology before. Now you can use AI in a way that it can help you with your goals, your business, your day to day. And that's what makes this so powerful and just like an obvious, oh, this is magic. And I was a Harry Potter girl. Ravenclaw, if anyone's curious. So when I got magic, I wasn't like, oh, I'm not going to touch this. It's like magic where you still have to learn it. You still have to learn the rules and how to make it happen. However, it's this like the most powerful technology of our like lives so far. And what scares me is the amount of people who are so jaded from what happens in society, like of course the inequities that can come from it, that they think that just shunning it is going to save them or keep them safe from it. And what it's doing is putting them at a crazy disadvantage and shutting down their businesses or taking away their jobs instead of harnessing this to like give themselves the outcome in the life that they want.
Yeah. And, Makeda, I think a lot of people, because I see the same jadedness too. I taught an AI course to a coaching group, a school, and the reality was many of them were not embracing or not using AI because they were afraid of it. They didn't know how. They there's they weren't getting the results sometimes when they plugged in whatever it was that they were using. So what do you see are the biggest mistakes that people are making when they're approaching AI?
Yeah, 1,000,000% the context. So that's why my book is context training. That is the term I coined for lack of a better word. That's why I'm writing the book on it, or at least putting that concept really out there, because that is the key piece, right? Like, data is queen, context is queen. AI doesn't work without it. You cannot tell a brilliant stranger all these things about like what you want to achieve and not tell it anything about the arsenal that you're giving it. And
Yeah.
that's where I tell people all the time when I come back to the connector method, which is my framework of action and evidence, which is that data, which then leads to confidence and results. You need to have that evidence library. It is when you sit down and say, this is what I achieved this week, and not just what you achieved at work. If you're a mom and you have kids and you're organizing schedules and bedtime and dinner time, or you are a project manager, or you coach a softball team, right? Like, those are skills that you're gaining from these activities. You lead something at your church. Those are all things that should go in your evidence library. And a lot of times people never sit still, especially women, to take stock of all of the things that they've accomplished, so that when they do go into this next area of life or business or whatever, it's not a situation of, well, who am I to think that I can do this? It's like, hey, look at all of the stuff I've done my whole life since debate club in seventh grade, right? Like, that is part of your evidence library too. Of course, I can do this because this is all of the things I've done. And that's a great use case for AI too, where you can put your evidence library, and I call that context training, where you tell AI, like, this is who I serve. This is the problem I solve. This is who I solve it for. What offer can I make from that? What business can I make from that? Or even better, if you already have a business and you have paying clients and you know what your value prop is, that makes it so easy for it to then create web pages for you, landing pages, copy, proposals, client frameworks, anything you can think of, because it knows what you're trying to accomplish. It knows who you are. So it's not giving you advice as if you're, a 30-year-old software engineer that lives in San Francisco. Instead, it's giving you advice for who you are, where you live, in your circumstances, and in your geography. And that's the shift that makes AI work 1,000 times better for you immediately. And I've
Yeah.
seen it so many times.
Yeah, totally agree. I've created some AI employees or assistants for myself but they have to know, they're each of them have their own job. And almost like when I have a social media assistant, they have their skills and their gifts and their own jobs. So it's the same with the AI employee. If you put garbage in, you're just going to get garbage out, right? It's this huge repository. Yes, it can help you with your capacity to do a lot more, but it can also just zap your energy because you've not been you've not given it the right context like you're suggesting.
Exactly. And honestly, context is ever moving, right? Like, you're experiencing new things in your business each week or in your life. You're having new conversations, you're learning new info. Where are you putting that? Or are you just losing it? And that's where I get into this idea where it gets a little bit deeper, where you talk about your wiki, your second brain, where it's actually digesting all this information, organizing it, and it becomes like this huge file. And I've worked now on having bi directional context where I'm not just doing a project file, which I still think makes AI work 1,000 times better for 90% of people. But when you start to build stuff like AI employees, you need the other employee to know what that one did, right? Like I am the CEO. I built the chief of staff who they all report into, and then you come back out and you say, hey, we're distilling this information under this like lens, and then giving it to the other employees so they know what changed and they're not working off of static stale context or information. And that's like because I've spent thousands of hours in these tools. I think it's an addiction at this point. um, my husband says AI is 97% of my personality now. But that's because anything I can think of, is at least in the digital realm, like tell me there's an AI who can come and be a housekeeper and a nanny, and now I'm really sold, or probably not because I've watched the movies. But that's where I have the time, like, okay, I need to go play with my kids, or I need to go in my homestead, or I need to clean the kitchen. Great. I'm not worried if an email is going out. I'm not worried if someone is getting my newsletter, or my podcast drops now. It drops 40 episodes per week because it's two across 5 languages. So, oh no, 40 episodes per month.
That's
But
wild. Yeah.
it could easily be per week. It's just that's the one thing where I read all of the scripts. But I'm not writing all of the scripts from scratch. I'm giving it a voice note at the beginning of the week. I'm saying these are some things I'm observing. Put this in my story library, or if I write prompts, put I call it my story library or my evidence, so it's pulling from my real experiences. It sounds like me. It has my other context. It's giving me the scripts. It really, the bottleneck is how fast I can read the scripts and make sure that it's what I want to say because my voice is on it. But this weekend, I decided, or last week, I decided to build all of these faceless brands. And it doesn't need that same level of quality. I don't want to say quality, but the same level of attention from me. That's better because my name isn't on it, and it's more general. It's like I started a vegan brand and an astrology one and a romance book one, and right, like things I'm interested in so I know what good sounds like. But my name isn't on it so it doesn't confuse my brand and confuse my audience. So it can be a little bit more like automated, because it's like how offensive can you get talking about a 5 minute vegan recipe?
Yeah.
Right, like this is pretty safe territory. The worst thing is if something just doesn't taste good, but that's not likely because I've put in like ideas of things that I eat and stuff that I like. So that's just an example of, again, that productivity. But I don't like to even think of AI as like a productivity tool. I think of it as a wealth building tool, an equalization tool. It's giving you the same capacity that the largest companies in the world had. And it's giving you, especially a solopreneur, a founder, a small team, the ability to have dozens or even hundreds of employees if you get there. I don't recommend that just because I feel like the complexity is where a lot of this stuff gets buried. But you can have a team. I have a team of 10 right now. I'll probably have a team of 20 by the end of the year, but it's just me. And it takes me a few hours to orchestrate them, and they're out there doing their job.
Wow. Yeah, and for those listeners who don't know, so Makeda, your podcast is it's your voice, but it's your clone, right? It's your AI clone. Like you're not sitting at a podcast studio recording anything. And so what I'm hearing from you is you're giving it the context of this is what I want to talk about this week or whatever, and then AI takes it from there, creates the show, records the show, puts it out in all those
Yeah.
different languages, and so you're not even touching it.
I just touch the script. I give it a
Yeah.
quick voice memo. It has my professional voice clone on it. I do that through 11 Labs, who gave me a grant this year, which makes it even easier.
Oh, nice.
And then I do all of it from Claude Code. I give it the script. It goes and renders the voice through an API. I don't even touch the dashboards anymore. It renders the script in my voice. It then sends it to HeyGen to give it to my video clone, and it just puts it out. I will say that I am more focused on YouTube for this next half of the year. I made that decision this week. So
Hmm.
the videos that are on there are likely going to come down as I have like a content day and have my clone look even more professional. What that means though is this is a 2 minute filming of a video in like a professional podcast studio. And then that is what you get. It is not a content day in the sense of I'm sitting down and recording 5 podcast episodes that day, drinking tea to save my throat, and then going to work full time on Monday. Absolutely not. I have my podcast scheduled out to like September. And sometimes new thoughts come in my head, and I just tell I call it my podcast producer, that's my AI employee. I'll say, move back all the other episodes and put this in as the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Or move it, here goes 5 new episodes. I want those to be my next episodes. Push back the other ones, and it's like 20 minutes, and it goes through, it renders it makes sure everything is good, it puts in my show notes, it puts in my SEO notes, it schedules it on the calendar that I give it, and it's done.
So, Makeda, do you have like a admin, like a real admin, or are all your employees like AI employees?
All of my employees are AI employees. I am thinking of hiring my sister to do the review work of my speaker booking agent and funds and grants manager employee, just because those do need like a level of review because it's going out to real people and it's equal to real money. These are, $1,000 contracts, or sometimes 5 figure contracts, right? Like if you're going to go do a workshop or speak with somebody, or you're applying to a $50,000 grant or a $100,000 grant. And what happens is it's easy, like even though I have all of these drafts already formed, ready to just hit send in Gmail, you still should go over it because you're shooting your shot for something that matters. So I have a little sister who lives in Ghana. I have a few sisters who live in Ghana and in other places in the world. And this is like super easy for them to do, and the income for it is like a really big difference for them there. So it's like, okay, well, I need somebody to review this. I could spend an hour or two doing it, like 90% of it's done, but I could also hire her to do the reviewing pieces of it, and now I can send out 100 or 200 or 300 pitches per week with just like with no insight from me, and I don't need to look over your shoulder because it's pulling from my evidence bank, it's pulling from my library bank what good looks like, it's drafting it, you're just making sure, okay, the formatting came out right, this looks good, and as you go on and do that, then it can be something else. But like if
Yeah.
I did it myself, it probably takes me 1 or 2 hours a month to still send out 2 or 300 pitches.
Those pitches aren't like you're not banking them and doing them all at the same time, or maybe you are, because sometimes
The
pitches come
AI
in at different
employee
time.
is, they can
Yeah.
have 200 pitches in there in 5 minutes
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
cowork. If you give them the list and you're scraping it and they're pulling, yeah, like you're just not going to keep up with AI when it comes to basic like just pulling information and like getting it in the system. The thing where you win with AI is the strategy, the voice, the context you give it so it can do that and you feel 90% confident. And I want to be clear about that too. Like you can train the context. Very rarely are you going to feel 100% great with everything that comes out. At least if you're like me, I'm pretty like I have high standards. Certain things I'll have AI start and I still spend a lot of time doing it, like my LinkedIn posts, because
Yeah.
that's my professional network. It's my business network. It's my coworkers, it's my clients, it's my like entire system. So I'm not trusting AI to just press post on a LinkedIn post when I know how much scrutiny it'll have. But
Yeah.
that was my choice of this is the one platform where I'm going to show up as me because it makes the most sense for what it is that I do. Like, right? Like the last two jobs I got, to your point, that first job where I applied 1,000 times once you get in, the last two jobs I got were from recruiters in my inbox. That is the power of LinkedIn. So it's not somewhere where I'm phoning it in. But Instagram, I've never spent more than an hour on TikTok. I think I have like 80 followers now. I don't follow anybody. My AI clone just shows up there and started posting like last month. And it was like, okay, because this is just the clone that's going out across Shorts, Instagram, TikTok. I
Yeah.
don't hang out there. And that's where now I'm like, okay, YouTube is very much an authority center. Let me focus on having way higher quality shorts and long form, and then all of that gets cut for everywhere else. So
Yeah.
that's, but at first it was like, can this system even work? And I've shown and I've proven it can. I scheduled like 300, I'm scheduled to like November with shorts if I touch nothing else. And
Wow.
then sometimes I have to go on and be like, what did they say? Like, because that's my face and that's my voice. And I'm like, let me make sure you didn't go off schedule here. And I've
Yeah.
seen some YouTube videos where I'm like, hold on, where did this come from? Which agent is running this? Let me go and shut that down because that is not what I said.
Yeah. Makeda, if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, I got to get on this AI train, where's a good place for them to start if they haven't been doing a lot
So,
actively?
honestly, in the AI world, there is so much information, it's overwhelming, but it's also like there's so much information, there's no excuse. It is free, it's everywhere. I have a podcast, I see it in society. I have a newsletter that comes out every week that just literally teaches mostly service based business owners here's something you can apply this week. But the coolest thing about AI that makes it different from every other technology that came before is you can open up Claude tomorrow or ChatGPT. I tend to use Claude more. ChatGPT is so great and say, "How do I use you? What do I
Yep.
learn?" Like again, that's where the context comes in then because you would go in and you would make these foundation docs and you would say, this is who I serve, this is who I am, these are my degrees or these are my certifications, these are my goals. How can I use you to help me reach that? Or
Yeah.
what can I do to start using you better?
Yeah.
Like no other technology allowed you to just ask the technology, what am I missing here?
Yeah, yeah. That's how I started building my first uh, agent and
Yeah.
AI employee was okay. Explain this to me like I'm a high schooler and walk me through
My
the
favorite thing
exact
is,
steps of yeah.
yeah. Well, my favorite thing is explain this to me like I'm in third grade. So I was a second
Yes.
through fourth grade teacher a lot, and I feel like by fifth grade stuff gets confusing. That's why you had "Are you smarter than a fifth grader?" and most people weren't on the show because I feel like by sixth grade it's like how fancy can we make this sound? So it's so much more difficult to understand biology than it needs to be. I literally have a instruction in there to have it be PB and J simple. Like, and what that means is peanut butter and jelly simple. Someone who has never seen bread before, how can you help them make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? And then I'll say sometimes when I feel like it's still too complicated, I need my 5-year-old kindergartner to understand this. Now she's
Yeah.
6, but that's what I used to do a year ago. I want to go tell my daughter right now what this means. How do I explain that? And it'll come in with some really like creative analogies, like there's a bug in the street, and right, like some
I
stuff you
know.
wouldn't have thought, and it makes it go like, light
Ding.
bulb moment.
Yes.
I'm
Ding.
not
Oh,
super
now I get it.
technical. Yeah.
That's wild. Makeda, what didn't I ask that is missing or that you would like to address?
Honestly, I feel like we covered all of it. The one thing I always like to address is like, you are not too late. If you're just hearing this podcast now in 2026 or 2027, you're not too late. Literally 7 billion people in the world, that out of the 8 billion, have never opened an AI chatbot or LLM themselves. Of course, they've been subjected to AI from just like whether it's shipping or logistics or whatever, but they've never gone into these tools. Less than 0.5% of the world's population has built an agent, has done any of those things. So you're not too late. Like, you are still on time. This is still, it's like, think about the dot-com boom. I asked my parents that all the time before I lost them. I was like, what were you doing in the 90s that you didn't get rich and buy like broadcast.com? I think that's what Mark Cuban sold for like $1 billion, right? Like, where were you? And that's what's happening now. You're in another boom. So much wealth is being created, so much power structures are being solidified right now, and this is your entry point. You can go into this and create a business that has consistent 6-figure months. I'm seeing folks who are doing it with these tools largely as a solopreneur or with a small team. Like, you don't need to play the game that these big enterprises have played, where that now you have payroll and HR and now you're becoming a person who's handling all of that, when you just wanted to be in the creative or you just wanted to deliver client work. You have that opportunity now. So do not be scared of these tools. There's literally 1,000, and that may be really low, videos that are coming out every day for free on YouTube. There's 1,000 boot camps you can join for free. Everything I teach and do in my advisory, I tell people I teach this for free. The advisory is just if you need me sitting over your shoulder next to you doing it. And that's some folks, and that's fine, but you can do it for free. I promise you.
Oh my goodness. Makeda, how can people find you to connect with you or work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So seedandsociety.com is just the hub of where you can go. But also, if you are interested in AI employees and you want to know the first one you should be able to build, I have a free AI employee report at audit.seedandsociety.com. And you can, it's like 3 minutes, 11 questions, and it'll tell you what's the first AI employee you should put in your business.
Ooh, I like it. Does it help you figure out how to build that?
So that's where all of the stuff in my, it'll probably give you a podcast episode where I talked about how to build it.
Nice.
It'll give you the newsletter where I like literally go through these week by week with steps on, this is something you can do today. This is what you can do. And just to help for folks who know the newsletter world, I have an on average 75% open rate,
Wow,
which in the newsletter world is kind of unheard of. And
that's
the
pretty cool.
reason why is because it's jam packed with value. I am giving you free information. Please take it and run with it and reuse it, do whatever you want. I just want more people to have access to this incredible technology in a way that they can apply. And I've now had so many women who I introduced to Claude or any of this who tell me they're building dashboards and they're making onboarding portals and they're teaching workshops around it. And that is what makes me super happy.
Oh, fantastic. Makeda, I want to thank you for joining us on Capacity Conversations. And if you're listening, I hope if you haven't messed with or worked with AI that you are now inspired to go fiddle around and go ask AI what is the first thing you should do, and go check out Makeda's website. You know, I love you have on your website, Makeda, something that I really truly appreciate. You have all of the AI tools that you use and the tools that you recommend, and it's outstanding. So go check that out, and you've got a lot of really good articles on how to build AI, how to use some of these tools. So
And it was all built with AI.
yeah,
The
yeah,
website, the tool, everything.
yeah, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Makeda, for joining us, and I hope if you've enjoyed this episode, please give us a like and a follow. Thank you, Makeda.
Thank you.